Welcome back to the channel. Today we are starting part 1 of a multi-part series on basically wrapping the F30's roof black. I went ahead and ordered 5 by 6 feet of high gloss black vinyl that we're going to go ahead and wrap this in. If you guys look at the new banner, which looks really dope by the way, I am just really stoked on how this came out. It's actually the same vinyl, so we're going to be using this but basically all up in here. Part 1 of this video is going to be me explaining how I'm gonna get off the shark fin antenna and then how I'm gonna wrap it in hopefully one piece. So we need to go over to the hardware store and pick up a couple things, and then we can come back here, get the antenna taken off and wrapped, and then the F30 wrap will be entirely underway. Prelude never wants to start. Needed to pick up a fresh blade, but now we can go home and get started. First things first, what I'm gonna do to get this off is take some painter's tape. I'm gonna basically make about a 2 or 3 inch line around it, and then I'm gonna cover up the edge here on the fin itself, because what is holding this on, most people think it's like a 3M double-sided tape, but it's actually more of a plastic. It's a much harder adhesive, so I wouldn't go pulling on this necessarily. You'll probably dent your roof. The goal is to create a nice safe edge that we can take a blade and cut around this whole thing to separate it from the roof. So now with this taped up, I feel a lot better about taking a blade to it. And as you can see, I left a line here. That way we can actually put the blade in and make the cut around the edge. Homeboy. Oh, that is why you guys use a plastic blade. That was close. That was so close. Shark fin antenna has been removed, no damage, so we'll set that aside for now. But this is what I was talking about. It's not really a double-sided tape. It's really more of a hard plastic. Like, you really gotta put in on some effort, and I'll probably grab a heat gun in order to get this adhesive off. Next, we're just gonna go ahead, I think it's a T25 screw. We're just gonna take this off and then throw some tape over the holes. And now this piece should slide off. After a lot of finagling, I was able to get this thing off. So we'll set that aside. And when you take that off, be careful you don't let this fall super far back. You know, just let it sit right here, because you don't want to go chasing for that. Basically, you have to push this little, yeah, I spilled a giant pen all over me. Basically, you have to raise this white part here like that, and it will expose a little tab. And in there, you have to push down or pull it out towards you and pull it off the device itself at the same time. So it takes a little finagling, but it can be done. Got the tape on, should do the job for a day or so. And now we can take this upstairs and hopefully get it wrapped in a single piece. I'm gonna start by just taking off that ring, that film of the adhesive that's still on here. And then we'll go ahead and wipe down this entire thing and get it ready and prepped for wrap. Now you can see we got about 90% of it off, although you can still see the black. And we'll basically buy a new one of these from BMW before we go ahead and reinstall this. So that way we're using OEM parts. So now with this part cleaned up, we're pretty much ready to wrap. I have a piece cut already that's about twice as long as this and about twice as wide as this. So it should give us enough. I know there's a couple ways to go about wrapping these, especially if you're trying to achieve it in one single piece of vinyl. One way is to actually open up your car window. You take a piece of vinyl and you take the backing off and you tack it to the top of the door, and you open the window and you tack it to the bottom of the door, so that way you have a nice open space basically where your glass normally is for your window, to basically push this through the vinyl. And that's how you do it, is you apply a ton of heat and you work it through the vinyl that way. I'm gonna give it a shot actually just doing it inside, because I worked with some pretty weird angles when I did the interior trim pieces, so I kind of know what I'm getting into with this, but I have some extra vinyl in case we do mess this up and then we have to use the window technique, but let's give it a shot. Alright, so if you just watched me do that, if the camera even picked it up, it went horribly and that didn't work at all. So what I've done now, I've basically hung the vinyl from my kitchen table, and I'm gonna go ahead and try and use the heat and hold this like this so there's lots of tension, and I don't know, maybe somehow try and push this through. I'll have a feeling I'm probably just gonna go outside with this.
A few moments later.
Per usual, I've MacGyvered some ridiculous thing together. So what I'm doing is I've attached one end of the vinyl to the table here and the other end actually to my desk chair, and what I'm doing is slowly working in the panel. So here you can see I've got a little bit of the fin. It's really hard to see in the black, especially with the light reflection, but I basically got this portion wrapped. You can see the hard part is done, so this is the back of the fin. I'm just very slowly and using a lot of heat and tension to wrap this thing. So I would set up the camera, but there's really nowhere good for me to capture this except for maybe like a point of view like this while I was actually doing it, and you know, you get the point. So I will catch up with you guys once I have a little bit more done. One side is pretty much entirely wrapped in black. About half of this side is done, so really all that's left is this portion here, and then we should have this fin almost ready to go. I really wish I could get a good angle of doing this, because it would really emphasize how much tension I'm actually putting on this wrap in order to get the hard creases filled without having so much tension on them, if that makes sense. This is why I wish I had a good angle to show you guys, but there's lots of videos out there. If you guys have any questions on how to wrap this type of stuff, I just wanted to make an F30 specific video, but it's all pretty much the same. So just check it out, look, do your research, and take your time. Another update, I think now it kind of looks more like a single vinyl wrap piece of shark fin, or you get what I'm saying. But all that's left now to do is wrap the edges and then cut off the excess. All right guys, so here it is. It's pretty much all done. I just have the excess on the bottom, but when we apply heat, you'll notice that none of it pulls back. You know, you want to do a good post heat, because once you get the film up to about 180, 200 degrees, depending on the film, it's actually going to lose its memory and it won't want to pull back to its original shape anymore under heat. So basically what that means is when it's out in the sun, it's not going to want to turn back into a flat piece of vinyl, and that's where you get all the edges pulling up and stuff. But as you can tell, none of the edges pulled up as I just did that, so that means we've adhered everything nicely. Alright guys, trim piece is all done, or antenna is all done. So basically once we get this ready to go, that is what that will look like. And then obviously the whole roof is going to be black, but I think this came out pretty good. Especially I'm really happy that we did it in one piece, and I mean you can see a couple wrinkles, but overall it's really not that bad. A couple fingerprints, but that'll come off. So really stoked on it. The backside came out pretty clean. I did a lot of post heating, so none of these corners were pulling back at all, which is what I wanted. And yeah, happy to say first try we did it. With that being said, stay tuned for part 2. We're going to be taking off these trim pieces here on the sides and wrapping those first, and then part 3 will actually be the whole roof wrap. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for part 2 and part 3. I will catch you guys next time. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Deuces.